All right. Everyone ready?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Max's bird feeder, right?
Yes. Welcome to Phone Wallet Keys David Ortiz, the podcast where we talk about my brother Max's bird feeder and his other
No, that's not.
antisocial.
Stop. Let's just stop right there. I think we need to start all over.
No, I'm the subject matter expert. That would
You're
be the
actually not the subject matter, and in fact, in the fabula and choose of this podcast, you're not even on it right now. Like, we're going to edit you in the middle of the situation.
What the fuck is fabula and shoes?
It's Russian structuralist language. That's something I meant to do now that now that I'm sitting here in your office. I'd like to go through all the books on your shelf and figure out which ones you've actually read.
To bring people up to speed, this is Phone Wallet Keys David Ortiz. It's a podcast that my brother Max and I have, and we are together. Usually we record this when we're really far away from each other. So we're trying this now together to see how it goes. And to celebrate the occasion, we've called in a former litigant against my brother in the Judge Mathis case.
Listen,
also just a close friend, Scott Yanko. Scott.
Listen, I want Scott Yanko on this podcast not only because he's a great Boston sports fan, but also because he is a cautionary tale to all of you out there that even if it seems frivolous, I will definitely sue you on national television if you fuck with me.
Cross me up! Don't snap, don't breathe, just to leave me on this skin. And baby begin!
Scott, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm honored to be here. I do want to clarify one point, which is Max was unable to complete the paperwork to sue me, and I actually helped him fill it out at the courthouse. Somewhere I still have it, and the suit against me is in my own handwriting.
Why was Max unable to complete the handwriting?
I think he was confused and intimidated.
I think it was because it was funnier to have you sue yourself ultimately. But my memory sort of fails me. Though I do remember walking into that courthouse with you and getting detained by the police on the way in for jaywalking.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I have that. I have the memory of that.
I don't remember that. That's amazing.
So that case was thrown out, as it should have been. And
summarily.
I'm gonna throw this new experiment out unless we can actually get to some Boston sports takes.
But before we do, I just want to say that, Scott, our Judge Mathis appearance I just looked at this before we started. We've been viewed on YouTube 88,000 times since we were on that show together.
Yeah, it's sort of scary, actually. I don't know how comfortable I am with that, but yeah, a lot. And the comments are really hilarious. There's a good split between people that sort of get it, and then people that are still under the impression that those court shows are real, like that's the legal system, and are furious at our frivolous abuse of it.
Yeah, count me among that group.
I'm just saying 88,000 people, so those 18,000 views that we've each put in have really paid off. All right, so
Scott, did you see the game last night, the Celtics game?
No, I watched the highlights. I talked to Max earlier about how my knowledge of the Celtics is 99% based on what I've heard on your podcast. So,
oh God!
So basically, you're just writhing in ignorance.
Okay,
right
so
now.
let's shift gears immediately. The Patriots are in the driver's seat for a first round bye. Are you familiar?
I'm very familiar with that topic. Yeah.
Okay. I think we're gonna have no problem at all in the playoffs. I think that what people are not remembering is that we have a healthy Dante Hightower as our middle linebacker, and that we're gonna need to win 2 games to get to the Super Bowl, and one of them is going to be against the Houston Texans or the Colts or someone or the Ravens, just like a team that does not scare me at all.
I would like to, before my brother goes off any further, Scott, and before we get your sage take on things, I would just like to point out that it is possible that we lose to the Jets on Sunday and don't have a first round bye. It's not,
Oh,
it wouldn't be
yeah.
totally shocking if that happened. It would be enraging, but it wouldn't be totally shocking.
No, I don't think it would be shocking at all. I mean, like, Sam, it's good to hear your confidence. I need that in my life. I don't. I am so confused about how I feel about the Patriots right now. Like, that Bills win felt good. Like, we looked like a reasonable football team, which we haven't for a while. But I, the thing I can't figure out is, like, how much of that is just our ability to game plan for particular teams. Like, the Bills have obvious holes that it felt like we were able to
At
exploit.
quarterback.
Well,
No, he's talking about he's talking about run stopping being a much weaker unit than their pass stopping, right?
Right. And so we ran the ball.
So Sam sounds like he's in the camp of this was all a game planning victory, and our victory over the Bills should be just chalked up into Belichick identifying the weaknesses of the team and then game planning to exploit those weaknesses.
Right. Again, that needs to happen 2 more times, or maybe just 1 more time after we beat the Jets on Sunday.
Yeah, but if the Bills are easier to game plan for than the teams that we made, like the Chiefs are distinctly, like, they have way fewer holes than the Buffalo Bills.
That's not true. The Chiefs also have enormous holes, especially on their defensive side, that I think that we'll be able to exploit and game plan against.
So you're saying that here's my concern going into the playoffs. I think the one thing that jumps out at me is the fact that the teams that were either that were lined up to play against in the second round of the playoffs have either been teams that we played already this year or are the Baltimore Ravens. In either case, I feel like they're going to know who the Patriots are and who they're not. And that mystique isn't going to get us as far as it might have in years previous. I like the fact that we haven't lost any games at home this year, and our first playoff game is at home. That makes me feel good. But I'm scared that, like, the teams that have already seen us will have won't be confused about what we bring to the table. If Rob Gronkowski is only a decoy, I don't think he can actually decoy players who he's been up against this season.
I have a question about that. So, like, we clearly haven't been going to Gronk much. And is it that we can't and he is being used as a decoy because that's what he needs to be? Or is this some weird long-term don't show how you're going to use Gronk because you can win without him when you're playing the Bills and the Jets? And part of it is to address that concern that you just brought up, Max, right? Like,
yes, this is the sunniest. This is the sunniest version of the season so far. Is that we have been not showing our cool red zone plays until the playoffs, so that they have never seen them. And when we split Gronk out, we haven't one time in the red zone split Gronk out wide and gone.
Those days are long gone. We're not just splitting Gronk out wide and single coverage means automatic touchdown. No, the truth is it's this. It's not that we've been keeping Gronk in the garage ready to bust him out in the playoffs where he's going to go back to Gronk of old. It's not happening. And Gronk's actually finished. He's washed up. However, that being said, I think this is Gronk's last season, and I think Gronk has 3 more games. I think Gronk can turn it on for 3 more games, even though he's feeling like he's basically a shell of his former self. I think he can dial it back for one last run. I think everyone's gearing up for one last run, and I think that's what's going to make us unstoppable.
Wait, Sam, why do you think he's such a shell of his former self? Just because we're not throwing to him?
No, because he just looks sluggish and hurt, and I think that the way that he had such a competitive advantage over every player that he went up against, that everyone had to play him this violent and unfair way, and it finally took its toll. And he looks hurt, and he looks like he's lost. Like, he doesn't have the speed, the separation that he did. He's not running through guys anymore. I mean, he's a extremely effective blocker still, and he's can make great catches. He just can't get the separation that he could once before.
Scott, do you think, speaking of Celtics, which I'm not going to mention anything that has happened recently because you are a young father with who's already admitted to being a bad fan. So, do you remember the year that we were counting on Shaquille O'Neal to be our center, like one of the last years of the Garnett, Pierce, Ray Allen, Rondo
Yeah.
Celtics, and we
Yeah.
signed Shaq, and we kept on waiting for him to, and it just like turned out that he wasn't going to be effective at any point because years and years of playing with a different set of rules to accommodate for how bigger and stronger he was than everybody took a lasting impact on his body, and by the end he just had nothing left.
Yeah.
I think that is not the worst metaphor for where Gronk is right now, though I also like the idea that I put forth earlier that maybe they're just waiting to isolate him until the playoffs.
So here's why I think it's not that and like, I have a certain amount of me that's like a in Belichick we trust kind of person, but not.
Which is I think the only reasonable position.
Sure. I mean, I think you can take it too far. Like it's pretty hard to like underestimate how important Brady is to the whole thing. But my point is like understanding when guys are washed up from what he sees on the practice field is maybe Belichick's greatest strength as a GM. I mean, we have seen so many cuts of guys that we thought were going to be phenomenal that went elsewhere and weren't, right? He understands when they're done. And so I just have to believe that if Gronk really had nothing left, if he was that last year of
that he would have tried to trade him in the offseason to the Lions?
Good point. Okay. But yeah, maybe. But then why play him? Because he's an effective decoy? That's just the only value left in him?
I mean, we don't have a lot of other options. We don't have a lot of other great skilled position players. I think here's what I do think. In terms of decoys, it's not Gronk, it's James White. James White has fallen off in recent weeks, and people are like, what the fuck is going on? He was so good in the beginning of the season. Now, like, we're like, the running back position is too clawed. We're not going to him. James White is going to have it, like, is going to be the running back in the playoffs. I don't think we'll see Sonny Michel and Rex Burkhead nearly as much as we've been seeing them in the past. But Gronk, it's just like Belichick's making the best of what he can of a Gronkowski who was prepared to retire before this season. And Belichick knows that it's like Gronk is,
But against Kansas City earlier in the year, against Miami a few weeks ago, he was great. He was a force, so that's why he's not completely done.
No, he outplayed
it in Travis Kelce.
That's right. He's got it in him.
Against Kansas City.
He absolutely has it in him for one last playoff run. Without a doubt, and I think he's gonna put everything he has left.
Another thing is just like people are being so disrespectful to the Patriots right now. People are being, and I am old enough to remember when that really meant something. When like Tom Brady would like spend a portion of his weekly press conferences discussing the impact of this week's disrespect had on Rodney Harrison.
Yeah, but Rodney Harrison's not coming through those doors.
And in fact, Rodney Harrison is like literally trying to disrespect the Patriots. I heard him on the television last week saying mean things about not being afraid to go into Foxborough right now.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing that everybody, like, if you have to make predictions about the Patriots, you can either predict that they're washed up and they're done and the dynasty is over and be wrong, or you can predict that they're the greatest team ever and eventually someday maybe that'll be wrong. But if we're just speaking statistically, if we're just speaking in probabilities, like our adult lifetimes are filled with examples of moronic pundits talking about the demise of the Patriots only to have those clips thrown in their face, right? Like we should all use Trent Dilfer as a cautionary tale and not be him, and just understand that, yeah, we can be worried about the Patriots, but predicting that we're all done and we're just a regular football team, as much as I complain to my 1-year-old daughter after a lot of these games in those tones outside the doors of my house in public, I don't say that because that's ridiculous. And yeah, I don't want to be the one whose clip is on there talking about how the Patriots are all done.
I think you're right, Scott, and I think we should actually keep this line of thinking going. And because I still remember exactly what Trent Dilfer said. He said they're not good anymore. The
Right.
Patriots are done. And then since then we've won 2 Super Bowls and been to another, and then another AFC Championship game since those things have happened.
There's also the effect of losing the Super Bowl, which is a really bizarre. It has a bizarre effect on your valuation of a team. If you lose a Super Bowl, everybody talks about you as garbage, right? It's like you were still the second best team, and in a lot of years, you can lose a game. The better team can lose a game, right? So it's not actually that indicative of the quality of your team. We've been to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row.
Right. And also the fact that better teams can lose in the NFL, it's like one of the things that makes the NFL playoffs so exciting is is another thing that gives me confidence. Like we don't need to be the best. Like we can beat the Chiefs. We don't even if they're better than us.
I mean, last year the Jaguars were better than us in the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
They should have won. And then they didn't because we had Amendola. And Brady was really good in the fourth quarter.
What else makes that happen is turnovers. And that's something that we saw out of our defense. And again, Buffalo, that quarterback has a lot to do with why that happened. But if you look at like the Patriots teams, the 2001 team, we were clearly not the best team in maybe any of those matchups that we won. Turnovers played a huge role in it. I mean, you can't, Dante Hightower being in that game, starting to get a pass rush, these disguised blitzes that we've been using more over the last 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That can be huge.
We still have a lot of championship players. We have Dante Hightower is a championship player.
Devin McCourty.
Devin McCourty is a multi-championship player who comes up with really big plays. We have his twin brother. We have
Trey Flowers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Trey Flowers, who had those huge sacks in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
To drive the Falcons out of field goal range.
And I mean, it's interesting now when you brought up like 2001, how it's almost as if for the Patriots, the Super Bowls that we've lost, we've been the better team, and the Super Bowls that we've won, we haven't. Like the other team was on paper better than us. It's maybe there's some exceptions to that, but I know in 2001 the Rams were a better team on paper. We won that Super Bowl. We were probably better than the Panthers and the Eagles for the next 2 Super Bowls.
It certainly looks like that now in retrospect, but going into those games, and everyone had picked the Colts before that to beat us.
Right.
Like,
okay, and then let's just keep going. Like we were so much better than both the Giants teams that beat us. And we were not as good as the Seahawks team that we beat, and we were probably not as good as that Atlanta Falcons team that we beat. And we were definitely better than the Eagles last year. So, and that's another thing that just gives me confidence. We got to it's 2 games to the Super Bowl at this point, if assuming we beat the Jets on Sunday.
It's really 3, right? Yeah, because if you don't win against the Jets, you could make it 3 now that you have to win in the playoffs. So it's kind of 3 either way.
Right.
Yeah, but the Jets, won't be
we have to beat
to beat the Jets, so we don't have to play like a team much better than the Jets. And
the 1 seed is still theoretically in play, which is amazing at this point.
I mean, if we had fucking won that Dolphins game, we would it would be ours, which is extremely frustrating and devastating. It's not really in play at this point. The Chiefs are playing the Raiders, and they're at home, and the Raiders are playing. The Raiders want to lose to get a better draft pick, and the Chiefs want to win. There's
and plus, even if the Chiefs lose, the Chargers would then be the number 1 seed if the Chargers don't lose.
No, don't we have a tiebreaker over the Chargers?
No, we only have the tiebreaker over the Chiefs.
Yeah, because it would go to conference record next, right?
Right.
All right, so we're the 2 seed.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think the 2001 analogy is better. Like there's I think as I see it, there's 2 scenarios, right? There's the 2015 scenario in which not playing the final AFC playoff game at home will cost us a trip to the Super Bowl. But another possibility is the 2001 scenario where we're the number 2 seed. We win a tough game at home and then go on the road and winning a football game it's not like winning a series. It's not like the Red Sox where they just prove to be the better team over the long haul. It's more like if you get out to a really good start, that can be enough to...
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about going to Arrowhead in the AFC Championship game. That's a matchup that I think we would lose 7 times out of 10, but it doesn't matter because it's just one game. And
The Chiefs aren't going to be in the AFC Championship game.
Well, that would be great because I would love to have, say, Phillip Rivers come to New England in February or in late January.
Right.
I would love to play Deshaun Watson in the AFC Championship
he
game.
scares me.
He's so good, but so does Pat Mahomes. Like,
yeah, the thing is about this playoffs is that Pat Mahomes scares me. Deshaun Watson scares me. Andrew Luck is like in the playoffs is really, really good. And Andrew Luck is looking really good. And Andrew Luck's a great quarterback.
Maybe. But do you think that like we couldn't just run the ball to like 40 times for 250 yards?
I think we'll take care of the Colts.
We played that game a couple years ago, I think.
Yeah, no, I think we'll take care of the Colts, no problem. I think we'll take care of the Texans, no problem too.
I'm just concerned because we've played them already and we were lucky to win the first time and they've gotten much better and I'm not sure how much better we have.
They're well coached too. They play close games well. Like they change the way that they play based on matchups. Like I don't think I do think we can beat them. I think we're better than them, but I don't think they're an easy out.
Who are you talking about right now?
The Texans. Did you watch?
Oh, yeah.
Did anyone here on this phone call watch the Texans almost come back against the Eagles last week?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was both like really insane and really bad. Like they kind of fucked up at the end. The fact that Nick Foles can drive on them was traumatizing to watch for me. But yeah, I think the Texans are eminently beatable. I'm just worried about the Chiefs' defense somehow being enough. Like, if the Chiefs slow us down and we only score 28 points, I'm not sure that gets it done.
No,
So,
that probably doesn't, but you have to remember that
the Chiefs suck and the Bills are good.
what? The Bills suck and the Chiefs are good?
At defense.
No,
Chiefs suck.
the Bills
at
are a better
defense.
defensive team.
Yes,
The Bills
right,
are the
right,
best
right.
passing
No, and
defense
also
in
don't
it.
forget about the Chiefs that if it's a close game and it's in the fourth quarter, who they have on their sideline leading their team.
Yeah, Andy Reid's a major liability.
Exactly. So, I think the Patriots are probably going to win the Super Bowl.
No, I think you're right. I came in this wanting to take a much more pessimistic stance, but I feel pretty fired up right now.
I feel pretty fired up too. I'm glad we were able to set the edge because damn right. Who's taking it from us? If we make it to the AFC Championship game, that's amazing. That's our 9th straight AFC Championship game. Is that right?
Did you see the statistic about the division? And there's plenty of ways to throw cold water on that, but we're only the second team in all of the 4 major sports to win their division 10 years in a row.
Wow.
Also, we really won it 5 years in a row before Brady got hurt. So why are we even fronting? Like, the 2008 season should have an asterisk for everybody.
Yeah, and
we should have won it that year too.
oh yeah, we tied and we lost the tiebreakers, right?
Yeah.
That year?
Because they didn't Favre throw a pick in week 17 that gave the Jets the division.
No, Favre was on the Jets.
At that point?
Yeah.
I don't know. No, I think it was Pennington.
No, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
Or
Pennington won it on the Dolphins because maybe because of Brett Favre throwing an interception for the Jets, but I'm positive that Favre was a quarterback that year because
you're probably right. I just remember being mad at Brett Favre.
Remember, everyone, he sent a picture of his penis that year to a employee, which sort of.
But what? He had a pill addiction, right?
Yeah, he had a pill addiction.
It was
which was totally
fine,
and didn't result in him going on probation. Whereas Josh Gordon has a sip of. Do you guys hear what the actual thing he did to break his terms of reinstatement?
No,
I've been trying to figure it out.
He had a drink during the bye week.
Of what?
Of alcohol.
Really?
No.
Swear to God.
No way.
That's it.
No way. Why would that violate the?
His terms of reinstatement were being completely dry.
Wow.
Wait, are you fucking kidding me?
No. So let's just get clear on this, right? The NFL, which is a racist organization, as Sam and I have pointed out, and Scott, you agree with that, right?
Yeah, I couldn't be more in lockstep with you. I kind of can't wait for Brady to retire because I'm too weak a human to give up football while he's playing. I just know that about myself. I can't justify it. It's just true. But as soon as he's gone, I'm out.
So admirable. So admirable. Thank you for being on. No, I know. It's hard to imagine continuing to like football in the face of its like, what did LeBron call it, Sam, this week? Slave mentality owners.
Yeah.
I just think this Josh Gordon situation is so fucked up. It mirrors the like very worst parts of the way we like treat people who use drugs in this country and the way we treat Black people's mental health in this country. It's like the fact that he had these insane restrictions against him. Like, I think
fucking crazy.
It's crazy that he's not allowed to play for the rest of the year. Even if he wanted to, even if he like said like my mental health is better, I'd like to come back, the league wouldn't let him because they put him on the list for taking a sip of alcohol.
That's absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
I think Brett Favre getting high on pills and photographing his genitalia and sending it to a female employee. Really,
that's the one thing that's interrupted the 15-year run of AFC East titles.
That's
it's a Brett Favre dick pic.
Thank you for bringing us back to the double standard Brett Favre dick pic.
I like that thing that you said, Max, on Twitter, where people were talking about like the competitive advantage that the Patriots have for playing the AFC East, and you pointed out the competitive disadvantage that the Jets have for not getting to play the Jets twice a year.
I just think that it's like people talk about how weak our division is, and it's like not our fault that we haven't had to play
we don't play ourselves, and so we are at an advantage, and the Jets don't get to play themselves, so they're at a disadvantage.
It's also kind of absurd. Like, our division is not that bad. Like, okay, the Bills have some holes, but very good defense.
Number one pass defense, number 10th against the run.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets are garbage this year and have been for a year or two, but there have been long stretches where the Jets were competitive. The Dolphins have been like on the verge of competitive.
Did they make the playoffs last year? Yeah.
Right. So the idea that the AFC East is just a cakewalk is just because we make it look easy doesn't mean it is.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, I would like you to tell our audience a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where were you? Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Medway, Massachusetts.
Stop right there. Now, what would you say right now is who is the most famous resident of Medway, Massachusetts, and how does that make you feel?
The most famous resident of Medway, Massachusetts is probably Grizzly Adams.
Now I was hoping you'd go with this. Does Kurt W. Schilling not live in Medway, Massachusetts?
No. This really backfired on you, didn't it? He lives in Medfield, next door.
Oh, next door.
Let's go back to Grizzly Adams, though.
Way shittier town.
Can you talk about what it's like to have Kurt Schilling as such a how do you process this? Because I know. My brother didn't believe me when I told him that he hosts a Breitbart podcast, and then when it turned out I was right about that, we had some even more deeper soul searching about the 2004 World Series championship. But how has the fact that he has moved to your neck of the woods but also become an insufferable Nazi make you feel?
Confused. I mean, I think that there's a broader question here about how do you handle the work of people whose work you loved, but who personally did terrible things. How do you manage that?
Is it that you just wish for their death?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, even if Kurt Schilling dies, which I don't want to go on record as saying would be great, because
let me go ahead and go on record and say it is great that Kurt Schilling will die one day, and the sooner the better. I am so glad that Kurt Schilling is a mortal, which means he will die, because that means that death will come for Kurt Schilling, which will be a great thing.
Yeah, I was trying to tiptoe around this show's checkered past with the of political assassinations, but if you're willing to go there, I am too. But does that fix it? He left the the circuit of celebrating that World Series win to go campaign for George W. Bush.
Wait, yeah, we don't need. It's not like we're fucking like hard up on sports heroes. Like fuck Kurt Schilling, and not just like fuck who he is now or who he's become, but just like fuck him and his entire body of work. Like I don't even fucking care about that bloody sock anymore. I truly don't. We have enough fucking heroes.
Bullshit.
No, fuck that. Like why even spend time talking about Kurt Schilling when we could just like we still have Pedro. You know, no one's taking that away from us. We got Ortiz, we got Manny. Like, there's people from that team that mean great, like that meant just as much, if not more, to even that run in 2004. We don't need this dude and his heroics. Fuck it.
You know, Scott, I don't like. I think what your initial reaction to my brother is might be correct. Like, I remember the bloody sock game pretty clearly in my head.
Yeah,
but one thing I have done to make myself feel better about this whole thing is I counted up Keith Foulke's pitch count over the last 3 games of the Yankee series.
Yeah.
And it was a Nathan Eovaldi-like effort that he gave over the last 3 games of the ALCS. He pitched so many pitches, way more in every outing than he had all season long. And so, like, my historical revisionism in this case, my intervention is just to be like, Keith Foulke was a fucking hero, and I don't choose to talk about Kurt Schilling at all.
No, I can see that, but my concern here too is that if you whitewash that history, then it doesn't allow you to discuss the fact that we're celebrating and lionizing these people without actually vetting who they are.
Uh-huh.
So
great point, Scott.
That's a good point.
Great point.
So
it's really true, and in fact, we run into this problem all the time. Like, we always get these constant reminders of who these sports stars what it is to idolize a jock, and then like knowing what we know about jocks from our own personal experience, and then to be like, I love a jock in the face of all that is hard to rationalize sometimes.
So, like, when the whole Brady, Belichick, Trump thing came out in the lead up to the 2016 election,
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Allegedly came up.
My sort of standard Boston line of defense was the larger problem is you looking to sports to figure out who you should vote for. Like, these are all terrible people, and if you mistake for 1 second that these were all the jocks you hated in high school and did terrible things, and all these owners are just rich assholes, and that if it wasn't the New England Patriots, it would be like Walmart. I was using that as a sort of partisan line of defense, but I think that there's actually sort of a broader truth about it. It's like, let's not delude ourselves here. The people, if you can honestly figure out who the good actors are in this world, which I'm not sure that you can, they would be very few and far between.
Right. No, I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
Scott, thank you so much for being our guest on this show. It's really nice of you to call you of all people, even though I sued you once. Before we let you go,
wait, is there, Scott? You've known my brother. You guys went to high school and college together.
Yeah.
Is there some horrible story that has never been aired on before that you'd like to set down for the record?
Oh my God, that's a lot of pressure. I'm positive that there is.
I'm so glad we didn't do a pre-interview questionnaire. So
yeah, if I'd had even 5 minutes to prepare, electric.
I'm sure you're gonna call back as soon as
we'll leave it as that. Maybe it'll be a cliffhanger. I can send you some story in the future. But thanks for having me. It's a real honor. I do want to take the opportunity to say how much I do enjoy the podcast.
Thanks,
and
Scott.
especially your role in it, Sam.
Wait.
Wow, thank you.
Let's
Go,
just,
let him hear him out, Max.
I don't think you need
Max,
to
please.
give compliments to one of us and not the other.
No, it's gonna get worse. My fear when you guys started recording these that this would just be like talking to Max on the phone, and were it not for Sam, it would be. You make this a real show, and it's a pleasure.
Wow, this is very smart, man, Scott. Thank you so much.
What do you mean? It would just be like talking to me on the
You
phone.
know, that doesn't need explanation. I think those are really wise words, and I just thank you for your thoughtful remarks.
Do you mean because
Well considered
I
and
can
well reasoned.
You're just mad because you find yourself agreeing with me so often. That's everyone's problem here. It's like, oh, Max is so crazy. I mean, he's right. I don't know how to say he's wrong, but I'm glad Sam's here to tell him he's crazy. Ha ha ha.
All right. Let's not go too far into the internal dynamics of the pod. Scott, it was a pleasure
have
to
I
have
said
you
anything
on.
wrong? Have I said one wrong thing since this podcast started?
It's not. It's.
Thank
To
you for
quote the Big Lebowski, Max, it's not that you're wrong. You're just a fucking asshole.
All right, Scott. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, give my love to your wife and daughter. It was really nice talking to you.
Will do. Good to see you guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Max, you here?
I'm here.
All right. Next up, we have
Our next guest is writer, author, photographer, artist extraordinaire, Zoe Samudzi. Currently based in Oakland, where she is a PhD student at UCSF.
Okay, all right. So you're a very accomplished person, and
It is our pleasure to welcome you to the podcast.
yeah, you've been a true champion for us, and I really appreciate that. All of the love that you've given us online. So it's great to have you here now on the
Even
pod.
though, based on my brother and I's understanding, and please correct us if we're wrong, you don't like sports teams from Boston. Is that fair to say?
That is extremely accurate. Yes.
So it raises some interesting questions, like why we have decided to make this phone call, and I actually don't have a great answer for that. But I've never been disappointed with the sort of like things you've had to say, even if I am disappointed that you don't love the Patriots. So I guess as a fan of the show, is there anything that you think that we could do better?
I mean, you could abandon your fandom for the Patriots, but short of that, I think that I would appreciate you talking more about women's sports.
Interesting.
Which ones in particular?
Any. I mean, tennis, soccer. I think those are the only two women's sports that I follow. There's women's rugby is a thing.
Yeah. The WNBA.
WNBA.
I do think that this show should get really into the Women's World Cup, which is coming up. I think that
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm down. That's fun.
And I think Venus and Serena Williams are like two of the most incredible athletes I've ever seen in my lifetime. And we should spend
And I
more
think you
time
should get into
acknowledging
the
that.
Women's World Cup, because if there's ever like a glaring example of like gendered wage inequality, it's the fact that the U.S. women's national team like grossly outperforms the male national team and gets paid like a fraction of
Yeah.
what they do,
So
despite
true.
like winning multiple World Cups.
And the Olympics, yeah. No, I mean it's hard to put too fine a point on how truly excellent the women's national team is and how really, really bad the U.S. men's team is, and how one team gets paid like professional athletes and one team doesn't. And if you would, I guess you would like everyone to be paid a living wage, right? But I don't even think the women's team at all levels makes that, and they're really good. And
Yeah.
the men's team definitely does, and they suck.
Yeah. And
So it's a great point, Zoe. Thank you for.
we should not only pay them a living wage, but we should like expropriate the wages of the male national team, and in your words, have them ritualistically disembowel themselves for accepting this
More
like
money.
tyrannical structure of wage and of these wages.
Wow, that's really true.
Zoe, can I ask you a question as a medical sociologist?
Sure.
In our earlier segment, we talked to a man from Boston about Josh Gordon And one of the things that came up, I'm sure you heard the episode last week where I had to break the news to my brother that Josh Gordon was at first it looked like he was voluntarily taking some time away from the game to focus on his mental health, but then it turned out that this was part of a larger suspension from the NFL for violating the terms of his reinstatement. Now, I don't know if you've seen in the subsequent week, it's emerged that the only thing he did wrong was have a sip of alcohol during the bye week, but that is still a violation of his reinstatement. But I was wondering if you could talk to us about mental health and especially Black male access to mental health in this country and sort of the stigmas around it and why Josh Gordon's news story was sort of everyone. I just wanted to sort of contextualize this around the Boston sports media glaring shortcomings when it comes to talking about mental health in general, and especially through the lens of race.
Right. So Josh Gordon has had like drug issues since he was a college football player. He was not Utah. I forget where he was, but like he had there was some suspension issues when he was a college player, followed by like other suspension issues when he entered the NFL.
And didn't even an assistant, sorry to cut you off, but didn't he,
No.
I think there was an assistant coach on his college football team that was like, listen, this is how you're going to pass these drug tests. Like he just like kind of totally from day one was just like, don't worry. You just do whatever you do whatever you do. And I'm going to help you like cheat the system.
And I went to a Division I school, and I can vouch for the fact that that's something that's common that happens with like star athletes, particularly star football players.
Yeah. It's not like you have like this is a situation, like, do you need someone to talk to? Here are some resources that are at your disposal to get some help if you want it. It's just like, this is how we're going to get you, like, basically, like, get you to the next stage so this won't be our problem anymore. Because
what happens when you're a Black male athlete, I guess we'll be specific about Black male athletes, is like when you get turned into a commodity and when you're treated as something that the school or the team or whatever institution can use to, like, for profit margins, your mental health or your physical health is only a concern in as much as you are able to garner more profits and more wages for them. They're not concerned about like I don't think you can get like addicted to marijuana per se, but there's no question about the fact, like, why are there so many football players, professional football players, who are like, yeah, I definitely smoke a blunt before a game because it puts me in the zone. Nobody's asking why this is like a practice that is common. Nobody is thinking about like the amount of physical pain that these athletes are in, and your kind of alternative to smoking a ton of weed is like taking a bunch of painkillers, which is like a fast track to some kind of opiate addiction. Nobody is thinking about the way that like there are all of these tropes. It's called like a superhumanization bias. And it's this like long-standing stereotype about the fact that like Black people are understood to feel less pain. And I'm assuming that translates also into mental pain as well as physical pain. So there are all of these ways that Josh Gordon, as a Black man, is not understood to be human, not understood to have mental and emotional needs, and is just simply treated like he's some like delinquent addict who has a drug problem. And so because of these drug issues, like, you know, he keeps failing these tests, and no one's just like, okay, why are you smoking so much weed, or why are you drinking? What are the ways that you can be supported?
I mean, I tuned into sports radio in Boston just to see what the tenor was like the day the news broke, and it was truly disgusting. I mean, not just because ordinarily it doesn't sound all that indistinct from like a Klan rally, but I felt sort of overwhelmed, Zoe, by the inability for anyone who was chiming in or had feelings about the Josh Gordon suspension, who were also Patriots fans, to see the sort of structural problems at play here. And I think you did a really great job sort of breaking those down for us just now. But could you talk a little bit more? I think for sports fans in general, this idea of seeing Black people as not fully human is like a real problem. And it's common across all sports. The way we talk about Black players' injuries versus white players' injuries, etc.
How about the kid this week in the wrestling from New Jersey, the wrestling, like the amateur
who had to cut off his
wrestler,
dreadlocks.
Yeah. And Bill Russell.
And he was a team player because he cut off his dreadlocks.
That's right.
So
Like,
let's talk about. We should talk about that. Unless you have anything more to add about Josh Gordon.
No, I don't.
So, I think, did you see Bill Russell tweeted this out, that he had found himself in a similar situation
with his beard, yeah. But he was like, he said, I think Bill Russell said, same. I was in a similar situation with my beard, but I was older, and there was no fucking way, like, there's no chance in hell that was going to happen to me. But that this is basically a common occurrence across, like, on the amateur level for the young, like, for younger kids especially.
So I've got like two feelings about that, though. Like,
ahead.
the first thing is the fact that referee apparently had like a history of being really racist.
Yeah.
Like dropping N-bombs.
Yeah. And then second of all, the way that newscaster who broke the story and talking about him as a team player, I got really fucked up because it's like, what does it mean for a Black athlete to be a team player when being a team player means making like tremendous sacrifices that don't actually need to be made for the sake of his team's success? Like,
the team should have, if the team was really like had his back, like the team player move would have been for the entire team to like gleefully forfeit rather than be party to this referee's insane racist like thing, right? Like,
and like, what does it mean for him to be like, yeah, I'll cut off my locks when, you know, we understand like Black students and college, and what does it mean if like his only access or one of his few means of accessing higher education is like a wrestling scholarship? So he's going to do whatever is necessary to be able to access that scholarship. And we are making this like violation of his bodily autonomy, which is how I see it. We're turning it into some like bullshit sports Disney movie story about how he's overcame the odds to like win the thing after he was like humiliated in front of this gym full of people.
Right. I would have been so much happier had Bill Russell tweeted, the same thing happened to me, but there was no way they could do it to me. Not because I was much older, but because like my fellow teammates, my white teammates would have refused to play without me. Like that.
Right.
He didn't say that because it's not true. And it would have been great if, you know, one of the white wrestlers had like given the rock bottom and the stone cold stunner to the referee instead of allowing their teammate to get his locks cut off.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that would have been a feel good story about race. And
feel-good stories about race don't demand white sacrifice, and that's why they feel good.
Wow, that's really...
I think that's right.
Devastating.
I think that's right.
You know.
Zoe, it's so great to talk to you. Do you have anything else you want to mention about the podcast or this week in sports?
I don't really follow sports, so I don't know what's going on this week in sports, and I'm in denial about the fact that the Steelers are out of the playoffs. I think the Chiefs are still in the playoffs, so I'm gunning for my hometown team. You know,
great.
They're Chiefs.
Well, thank you for listening. Thank you for mentioning us on social media from time to time. It's really, speaking on behalf of my brother, it is a genuine treat to be able to have you on our podcast, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you real soon.
Bye.
Okay, bye, Zoe.
All right, so our next guest, we've been having a really good run so far, huh, Sam?
Oh, a really good run indeed, Max.
Are you making... Oh, my God.
So here we go. Phone Wallet Keys, David Ortiz. We have a new call-in today. Caller, what's your name?
My name is Isaac.
Isaac, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the great state of Florida.
Isaac, it's really nice to have you on the phone. This is Max.
Hey, Max. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, sure.
Really enjoying the banter between you two, so honored to be on. Thank you.
So maybe we should start off by saying how you know me and Sam. How did you meet me?
I first met you disguised in a strip club.
Go on. Maybe we should...
Wow. Wait, I think maybe should we end it like who's disguised?
Max is disguised in a strip club wearing a bike helmet and a blonde wig and some, I remember he called them Go Fuck Me Oakley sunglasses.
I believe they're called Go Fuck Yourself. Okay.
Go Fuck Yourself. All right.
And
yeah,
what
you
was
can edit that.
what was he doing?
He was buying us drinks. He had planned to surprise you when we were going to Reed College together in Portland, Oregon. Max had an elaborate scheme to get us to take you to a strip club in the afternoon, which was a lot because like we never go to strip clubs, period. So to like decide to go to the strip club in the afternoon was
How much convincing did it take to get me there?
we had to like almost physically drag your ass there. Like I don't remember you. I remember you being like, "Why on earth would I want to do this right now?"
My recollection was like, why on earth would I want to do this right now? And you guys were like, come on. And I was like, yeah, okay.
But yeah, we didn't really know much beyond which strip club to go to, and we sat at the table, and this weird-looking guy wearing a bike helmet and what looked like a wig and glasses inside the strip club, a dark strip club, by the way, was buying us drinks and giving cheers to our youth. I remember that's what he kept saying, to your youth. And then eventually, I think after one or two dancers, he came and approached us. And
My memory of the approach was that Sam tried to like square up with me and had his fist cocked. It was screaming, "Get the fuck away from me!" before I revealed who I was.
My memory was that we were talking shit about you, being like, "Look at that weird fucking guy," and Sam was like, "I don't know, he seems all right to me."
No, I think I was like, yeah, he's hit rock bottom, but he's just like, there's something about him that I feel this connection with him. He's like, he's all right.
So yeah, that was the first time I met Max, and then I saw Max at his full strength, which was talking shit during a soccer game where I was playing.
Oh right, I went during that visit. I came and was a cheerleader for you. I remember.
Yeah,
this.
I really appreciated that. I was going through a tough time, but watching you almost got the opposing coach to come in the stands and fight you.
He was awful close.
And this is like in the Bible division of like the.
No, that was the basketball team. The soccer team played against actual like college clubs, but it was still like I was so impressed, man. I mean, you really blew me away. That was probably the greatest first impression anyone's ever made on me.
Wow, back to back.
Wow, Isaac, that's so nice. And okay. And just for our listeners' edification, so that like I like to confer your just due expertise onto you before we start this interview.
Sure.
What have you been working on lately? Is it fair to say that you are a New York Times writer who covers basketball? Is that fair to say? I feel like that's fair to say.
I mean, technically, you can say that, yes,
and not be lying. So it is true to say that you have written front page stories for the New York Times about basketball.
Yes, that is true.
Okay, everybody, you can feel free to Google our expert basketball reporter Isaac Eger, New York Times.
Just don't look at the Google image search because it's very embarrassing.
Isaac, let's hear some thoughts on the NBA season thus far.
Parody.
Specifically
parody. Yeah, that's a good. I like that.
Did you think that the Celtics would be in this position at this point in the season? I mean, yes, they have won 2 straight, and something like 10 out of their last 14 or something. But I am apoplectic, and my feelings are deeply hurt based on the way things have been going so far.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have made me more concerned for the Celtics than I would be otherwise listening to your podcast. It does seem like
Things are bad.
much more. I think things aren't great.
Things are actually fine. Are you fucking kidding me? Kyrie dropped 40 points last night and was the best player on the fucking court.
But you didn't watch the game, so let's leave this conversation to the adults in the room. Isaac, did you watch the game last night?
As an adult, I did watch the game.
And would you say that things are all fucking hunky-dory, or would you say that Gordon Hayward can't really jump the way we need him to jump in order for him to be the player of old? And also there's something actually wrong with Jaylen Brown.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned those two players. I'm actually more concerned with Jason Tatum.
You're concerned with Jason Tatum. I'm concerned with the amount of shots he's getting, but he looked great yesterday.
He looked great yesterday, but his shot selection is atrocious.
It's because of Kobe Bryant.
He has been bitten by the Kobe bug. You guys are screwed. He's going to leave for the Lakers. Watching him play this year versus last year should be something you're concerned about.
But you're more concerned with Jason Tatum than Jaylen Brown?
I just don't think Jaylen Brown is getting the same kind of minutes he was getting last year to prove himself.
He's also playing like shit almost every game. I actually don't buy the minutes thing. I mean, I think that maybe psychologically or so. Like, just, the minutes doesn't explain why he'd be playing so bad.
Terry Rozier has been playing bad, and it's because of the minutes.
No.
Yeah, because of Kyrie. Yeah.
No.
I love Kyrie. I can watch that guy play, but he is definitely changing the dynamic of the team, I think, for the worse.
He's the only player who's playing good, except for fucking Marcus Morris, of all people.
First of all, Marcus Smart is playing well. He is shooting a better three-point clip at this point in the season than Klay Thompson. I just want you to know that.
Wow.
But that's also
how many assists did Kyrie have
3
last night? Yeah, I think he had 3 or 4 assists.
3 or 4 assists and 10 rebounds, though. So
in overtime.
Right.
And that can mean one of two things: that either
he's dropping 40 points and being the best player on the court.
Kyrie is not passing the ball to where his teammates want it, or his teammates are missing shots, or both. I have seen the Celtics miss a lot of open shots.
Yeah.
I mean that's been odd.
Who would you say is the most glaring culprit in that? Because I have a list of Celtics who are missing shots that I need them to start making, including but not limited to Terry Rozier,
Al Horford.
Yeah, I'd say Horford.
Horford is missing so many open shots.
Hayward is missing a ton of open shots.
Yeah.
Hayward is getting stuffed by the rim.
So, Isaac, you talked about parity in the league in general, and I think that's a really interesting point. Like, in the Western Conference, there's only only the Suns are kind of out of the cusp of playoffs, and even that they're playing pretty well right now.
Right.
In the East, it's a little different. There's 5 good teams.
There's 5?
Yeah.
There are the Raptors, the Sixers, the Celtics, the Bucks,
and the Pacers. That's 5.
That's your. Are we all on the same page?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
Yes. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And the Pacers are playing really well, even though Oladipo has been out.
They've been really good, but really quiet. I don't feel like anyone's talking about them.
Yeah.
Which is sort of their MO. They kind of just fly under the radar and they play pretty well. Who are these teams, especially out west, that you think are actually for real? Like, do you think the Grizzlies are actually as good as they're playing right now? Or you think the Nuggets are actually the best team in the league?
And also, as a tall, awkward man, do you think that this Jokic guy who is playing for the Nuggets is the funniest NBA superstar to come along in quite some time?
I think for all doughy white boys out there, he's a real hero.
I like that he smokes cigarettes and dunks without jumping.
He smokes cigarettes?
Yeah, he's Serbian.
um, there's a lot of questions right there. Let me try to remember which ones. Was it who's for real out in the West?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Golden State is the best still, even though their record might not show it. Steph Curry was out for a while, and clearly they're dealing with some in-house issues. But I mean, they're still they're so good. It's unfair. I mean, I hate Kevin Durant. I cannot stand Kevin Durant just because it's boring as hell to watch him because he's just too good.
And Boogie Cousins is coming soon, and
we'll see. Coming back from an Achilles injury like that, I don't expect him to be full speed.
No, I mean
until maybe like the absolute end. But even then, I don't know if his dynamic will be good for the team.
So
I think that
it's interesting. So you don't like Durant because he's too good. You're kind of your favorite player is Steve of all time is Steve Nash. Who's like that holding that kind of mantle for the season? Are you big on Doncic?
He's definitely fun. But I gotta say, for the past 3 years now, LeBron has been my guy.
Wow.
I absolutely love LeBron.
You love
James.
LeBron James.
Do you think it's because it's actually, as a basketball fan, more fun to root for the person to do the amazing thing rather than root against it? Because I remember growing up, I'm 4 years older than you two, so my memories of Jordan were like, I was pissed off because the Boston teams were really, really bad during Jordan's heyday. All of the teams were really, really bad. All four were just awful. And I didn't want another city to have it so good as the city of Chicago had it. So I would like root against Michael Jordan. And it would be terrible because Jordan would constantly do the thing that I most hoped that he wouldn't do, and it felt like shit. And so I just started like recently. I'm actually even though he like beats the Celtics all the time, I just started rooting for LeBron to do incredible things, and it's so rewarding and great.
I used to hate LeBron so much, and now I mean I also love him too. Yeah,
it's more fun to be rooting for the amazing guy to do amazing things because he's going to do them.
I think there's some differences though with Jordan and LeBron. Because I'm not a Jordan fan by any means.
Well, you're also too young.
I watched Jordan play against
play.
Shaq and Penny in Orlando. I saw him play in person. I remember those days. I was a Penny Hardaway fan back in the day, and a Sean Kemp fan.
Ooh,
but
Sean Kemp.
I think that the difference with Jordan and LeBron is somehow LeBron is both the best player in the league for over 10 years now, and somehow still an underdog. You know, rooting for him against the Warriors. I think I rooted for the Warriors in the first final series just because it was kind of a surprise and Steph Curry was really fun. But then it was clear they were too good, and LeBron's been in the league for 17 seasons now? Mm-hmm. No, that's not right. Is that right?
I think it's too many, but go ahead.
16 seasons. He has, because I know he has 16 pairs of shoes out, so he knows he has at least 16 seasons in there, and he's only won 3 championships.
But 2 of them were with the Heat, which
right, and I wasn't rooting for him then.
Right, because that was
he only got like fun to root for once he went back to Cleveland,
and even then.
But he's arguably like this is like he's like more fun to root for. He's like more rootable now than he ever has been.
And I hate the Lakers, so I don't.
I hate the Lakers.
I hate the Lakers too. Yeah, I don't know how's it been watching one of the Lakers this season.
It's been interesting. I find myself even liking Lonzo Ball, which I never thought would happen.
I like Lonzo. What's wrong with Lonzo?
The whole like media industry that was around him and his father was pretty obnoxious.
Agreed.
But now I really enjoy him, and so it is a weird position to be in, which I had to do it once before when Steve Nash went to the Lakers, even though that didn't turn out very well.
Oh yeah.
But I think the last team that I truly loved was that 2014 Spurs team that beat LeBron in the finals.
That was a great team.
They played perfect basketball, and what made them so enjoyable was they weren't as freakishly good as the Warriors, but they played amazing basketball.
And what do you think about? Have you been watching the Raptors at all?
Yeah, I mean, Kawhi is phenomenal.
I can't believe that the Celtics wouldn't put Jaylen Brown on the table for him.
Was that an option?
I think so. I think it seems like that was sort of like there was obviously some interest on the Celtics from the Celtics, and there was a limit to how much they were willing to put down for him. And I think that they ultimately, according to the rumors, they weren't really willing to part with Jaylen Brown, which seems completely ludicrous now. He's so good, Kawhi. I mean, we didn't know that he was going to
Be all the way back.
He was like, his injury was very mysterious.
He never really left. That's the whole thing. It was pretty bad on his part the way he left. Definitely lost a bit of respect for him there.
Now,
But you think they're the real deal?
As a leftist, do you think that there's I mean, we should probably contextualize this a little bit, but do you think that as a worker, he should be able to do whatever he wants?
Yes. Absolutely.
So,
But
why did you lose respect for him and his departure?
it didn't seem to be an issue of money, or maybe it was an issue of money within his camp, and they wanted him to be a superstar. I expect him to leave Toronto and go to LA, because that's where you go. You go to a big market team to make money and be a superstar player for real. And I guess at some point, I'll always choose the players over the owners.
Of course.
But at some point, are you happy with $100 million? Like, how much more money can you possibly need?
But he turned
be happy?
down more money to leave the Spurs. The Spurs could have offered him the most money of all the teams.
And that's where I think you're going to see it. While that is true, according to the bargaining agreements, I think that players want to move to big market cities because you will make more money in a place like LA or New York. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, agreed.
Isaac, what do you will you talk a little bit about covering basketball as a worldwide phenomenon in 2018 and looking ahead to 2019? Do you think based on your sort of world perspective, I was reading an article about the NBA looking to India as its next commerce zone.
Right.
Looking, they're desperately seeking the Indian Yao Ming to break open into that market. It seems to me that, especially compared to the other American major sports, basketball doesn't need any help looking cool. It will always just be the coolest thing visually to look at and easy to sell. But what has been your sort of experience covering basketball in this way?
Well, I was most recently playing basketball in China and Tibet, and both the Tibetans and the Chinese are just rabid basketball fans, and they love the NBA. I watched the finals with some monks, and most of them were LeBron fans, a couple Steph Curry fans in there. But why basketball appeals so greatly to people worldwide is something I am seeking an answer for. I think that I will argue that basketball is the most participated sport in the world.
More than soccer?
I would say yes, because while soccer, all you need is like a ball, I suppose, something to be a ball and kick it, you still need like a flat, open space. It's much larger. And as where most people live today are in urban environments where you're not going to have such wide open spaces. And a basketball court is very easy to construct. And so, in my experience, of course, while I'm traveling the world seeking basketball games, that's what I see. Of course, I see soccer games happen as well, but just I see more basketball playing around the world.
Interesting. Isaac.
And you're right that basketball culture is cool, and that's because basketball culture is associated with Black American culture, which is globally the coolest culture.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly right.
I mean, I was meeting Tibetan hip hop artists. I mean, it's everywhere.
Isaac, has there been any sports story that you wished was covered on Phone Wallet Keys David Ortiz that we somehow missed in the last couple months?
That's a good year-end question, brother. I like that question.
Let me think. I don't know. Did you guys ever talk about Tyson Fury?
No.
Do you know much about this boxer, this English boxer?
Refresh my memory.
He beat Vladimir Klitschko, I think a couple of years ago, has like substance abuse issues, so he made his comeback against this other heavyweight named Deontay Wilder, and they drew in this most recent match between them. But I was hoping you guys would cover it because he's made a lot of anti-Semitic statements in the past.
Like what?
Just about like Jews running the media and the world and all that kind of stuff. And he's clearly like insane, and it's hard to tell how seriously you should take him. But just recently with LeBron James quoting that 21 Savage thing about Jewish money.
So what is that quote exactly? LeBron James quoted on Twitter, right?
It's like, I'm making Jewish money, something about being kosher. It's not like a good line. It's not clever or funny, but I mean, I'm always curious about how you guys interpret certain Jewish sensitivities, and that they exist in the sports world, I think would be an interesting, I would want to hear your take on it for sure.
Max, any...
Like, is it a big deal that he said Jews control the media, or should we just be like, stop being so sensitive about it?
I mean, I think it's exactly as big a deal as when what's his name was rapping about Arab money or Saudi money. Is it Coolio who did that, or
What?
no? I want to look this up, but Sam took away my phone because I was using it.
Max, what are your thoughts about perceived anti-Semitic remarks in mainstream sports?
Oh, Busta Rhymes, not Coolio. Busta Rhymes has a song called Arab Money.
Damn, you are so lame for for even saying the word.
Well,
the
maybe
name
instead
Coolio.
of making me look lame, you could just like use your like ultimate powers of editing and excise this from the record. Instead, you're just
maybe.
No, I mean, I don't. I think like Jews operate this weird space of being both the beneficiaries of structural white supremacy and also being the targets of individual white supremacists. And so I do think LeBron should be aware that there are white supremacists in this country who will take his sort of like very tacit, very passive endorsement of this anti-Semitic trope and maybe come down on Jews a little harder. But I also think it's like, it can't be overstated that like the people that like threaten Jews don't like LeBron James for the exact same reason that they don't like Jews. They're like white supremacists aren't taking their cues from LeBron James as like who is okay and who is not okay to target. So from like a realistic perspective, I don't think it's that big a deal. I think it's certainly not the biggest issue plaguing the American Jewish community right now. Those issues are the American support for Israel and the American willingness to completely erase Black Jews from their conversation about what it means to be Jewish in America. Those two issues to me are much bigger than LeBron James quoting a dumb rap lyric.
Or the mentally ill white boxer.
No, he's a black boxer.
No, his name is Tyson Fury, but he's white.
Oh, well, in that case, fuck him. I thought we were like we spent an earlier segment in the show talking about black mental health, and specifically around Josh Gordon, and so I thought that this was just another example of that. But now I'm sort of more on the fence of fuck.
I just loved his apology where he said, "I'm sorry if I offended anybody with my statements." I love how that's kind of like the rote preface to any sort of redemption, where it's like, "I'm sorry if you were offended."
Who are offended's fault. Where Isaac, thank you so much for participating.
Oh, thank you guys. Love the show. I've been waiting for the invite, and
we'll get you back to talk about basketball as it heats up, probably after the NBA season's over. But I think this was really great. I'm sorry, probably after
So once
after the NFL season is over, and
right.
we start focusing more on
when you want to forget about the Pats just totally failing out of the playoffs, we can talk about the NBA.
We've actually already talked about this episode.
We're feeling extremely confident.
We're feeling.
Oh, what a surprise! I cannot believe that you guys have some unfounded belief that the Patriots are going to win this year.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna win the Super Bowl.
And then people's hatred of Boston.
And then the revolution, right? That's how it works.
For
But actually, like, I'll put money down. We're gonna win. I like our odds to win the Super Bowl as much, if not more, than everyone else's. Isaac, thanks so much for joining us. We're gonna have to catch up later, okay? But I'm gonna let you go, buddy.
All right, love you guys.
All right. Mom, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, we just finished having our last guest on the podcast. But then it's nice of you to call and be our final guest. So say hello to the people that listen to our podcast.
Hello, podcast lovers.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Max.
It's great to talk to you.
Likewise.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, happy anniversary, Mom. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Made it a long time.
What would you say for our podcast listeners is the key to 36 years of successful marriage?
This is a tough one. Having two terrific sons like you guys.
Well, 1.5, but yeah.
You think that's funny, Mom?
Depends on which half you met.
Maybe 3/4. So, Mom, do you listen to me and Max's podcast ever?
Yes.
Do you listen to every episode?
I haven't listened to every episode, but I've listened to quite a few of them. I didn't listen to the last one yet.
Are you proud?
Yeah.
What would
You always talk about Dad, but you never talk about me on the podcast.
Oh, well,
That's horrible.
Yeah, that is horrible. And that leads into my question too, which is that what would be your advice for how we can improve the podcast going forward?
You have to, give me a little warning when you're going to interview me.
Mom, you called us.
I called you to see what time you're going to get here.
We're just riffing right now, Ma. What would you? How can we make it better? What? Just for you, not even for other people. Like, what would make it better for you?
Well, I have to be honest. The thing I love about it is because I love you both so much, and I love listening to you talk to each other. It's just like having the whole family together. I think they're a little long sometimes.
Yeah, this episode is.
This is already turning into a two-parter, but a little long. For you don't have the attention span to listen to your two boys talk for more than 45 minutes?
It's not so much not having attention span, it's not having that much time, like, to just be doing nothing else but that.
Most people listen to podcasts while they're on the go or while they're cleaning up the house or making dinner or something. People don't usually like sit down and just like listen to the podcast and do nothing else.
Yeah, well, so we listen in the car.
There you go.
But we don't go that, we don't go in the car very often. So, except when we're going to Cape. But like driving around Boston, it's like, 10 minutes here. And I suppose we don't have to listen to the whole thing at once, but that never occurred to us.
Do you think that we're better than MSNBC shows?
Do they have sports shows on MSNBC?
I don't know.
You tell me. They cover everything like it's sports, so I can't. Also, I don't watch it.
I don't know what Max is talking about. Mom, are you with Roger right now?
I am.
Put him on the phone. Don't tell him we're recording the podcast.
Okay.
All right.
Hang on. Hi.
Hey.
Hey, Dad.
Hey, Max. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How was your flight up?
It was. I made it on time, which I'm really proud of myself.
He set the bar really low for.
We already talked about how clever you were to have actually made this plane.
Thank you, Daddy.
I just wanted to know whether it was comfortable, whether it was crowded.
It was very crowded and very uncomfortable. Hey, can I ask you a question, Dad?
Can you ask? Sure.
Let me think about how I want to phrase this. Have you been listening to Sam and I's podcast?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
Wait, are you?
I don't want to be interviewed about it right now.
We're not interviewing you. We're having a conversation amongst ourselves about ways that we can improve it. So your input would be appreciated if you'd be willing to give it. If you want some time, that's fine.
Well, I think it needs editing.
I edit it, Dad. Every week I edit it. What do you mean? It needs more editing?
You mean it's too long?
No, because I think that you leave. Yeah, some things are too long, and some things are just not even on point. They're just totally random.
Does anything jump out at you as a shining example of that?
I'm sorry, but I don't have that specific
No, because you just it's boring. I know.
What do you mean things are random? I don't even understand that criticism.
Well, like you're talking about sports and you go off onto a tangent that is neither politically or comically or otherwise all that interesting.
But in general, sometimes you think it's funny?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we'll try harder, Dad.
Dad, I love you so much. I'll see you real soon. Happy anniversary.
Yeah, happy anniversary. All right, thanks, Dad. We'll see you soon.
Don't break,
Bye.
don't break your ankle or clench your fist.